So as we all know, there's a whole new 3 Ray movies trilogy in the works right now, and right now I'm working on 2 other videos. I'm working on a Satio Sean lore video, so stay tuned for that, and also a video actually revealing my new comic book. So, or at least one of my characters from my comic book. But that's a topic for another discussion in another video. But anyway, right now what I want to talk about is where the direction of Star Wars actually needed to head and why making 3 new Rey movies is one of the most dumbest decisions that Disney can actually make right now. And especially coming off of the heels of Acolyte and also just coming off the sequels, and we're all still digesting the sequels. I mean, all these years later, what was the last movie, like 2019? We're still digesting what the heck happened. Disney is absolutely not on the right track right now. I mean, that's more than obvious when it comes to Star Wars. They are just messing everything up at every single last turn right now. And then to double down and then completely make a whole nother 3 Rey movies, I think it's just completely asinine to me. I think that Daisy Ridley and these characters deserve redemption, but I think at a later date. I personally think doing this now while the fans are hurt, while there's still a lot of fans who are still mourning over Star Wars right now, and a lot of fans are in this mass exit of the Star Wars, that's just something that didn't need to happen. What I believe instead needed to happen was to go about 500 to even 1,000 years into the future and completely leave the Skywalker era behind. I think that's the honest to goodness right thing to do. As I said before, Star Wars is so vast, it's so deep, it's so much more than just the Skywalker era, and I love the Skywalkers. I love Luke Skywalker, I love Anakin, I love all these characters, but I think it's so much deeper than just the Skywalker family. I mean, heck, you could even still have Anakin and all those characters be a part of it. I mean, Anakin is technically in a world between worlds right now and is acting almost like a guide. That aspect of Disney Star Wars is actually pretty cool, what they have done with Anakin Skywalker. But overall, I believe that just leaving the Skywalker era alone and creating your own new story creates more creative freedom. It gives you more leeway to do things what you want, gives you leeway with characters. Everything doesn't have to necessarily go off the heels of what the Skywalkers are doing. And it just allows you to get loose. As I said before, you get to just get really creative. Do whatever you need to do in order to create a good story and a nice cohesive story. I personally believe if they've done something like this, or if they do something like this, we can get more characters similar to Shin Hati and Baylan Skoll. I mean, these guys could literally run an entire show by themselves. I would watch a show just on Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati alone. That even years later, after watching the Ahsoka TV show, I'm still wondering what these 2 characters have actually done, what they've been up to. I want to know more about these 2 characters. And yes, I know that these characters are technically within the Skywalker era, but I mean, just imagine just putting them in the far, far future. I mean, maybe even go back to the past, maybe even right before the High Republic. You can do that kind of stuff and you get this creative freeway, or sorry, not creative freeway, creative leeway to do what you need to do in order to create a cohesive story. You don't have to necessarily piggyback off the heels of what's happened before, because you're so far in the future that you can almost just set your own tone. And that's what I honestly believe what's missing within Star Wars. I think what's happening is there's some people who are still on George's side, because obviously we want to honor everything that George had created, and there's other side that's just like, no, let's just create our own thing. But what if I could tell you could actually just do both at the exact same time, instead of doing what we're necessarily doing right now, which is just creating this weird condescending tone between what's came in the past and what's coming now. I mean, it's just this weird undertone that one side obviously hates the other. Case in point, the freaking Reva show, or as I say, Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but I call it the Reva show because that show was all about Reva. It's almost like 2 of the directors came together and one wanted to honor George Lucas and then the other one wanted to interject their own new characters, and it just didn't blend well whatsoever. It ended up becoming the Reva show. So honestly, moving so far in the future that we can skip over the Skywalker saga so you don't necessarily have to run into these necessary story humps can really help, honestly, unleash the creativity that's going on at Disney. Because during this tenure, that there has been a couple times where it's like, yo, this character's actually pretty cool. As I said, Shin Hati, Baylan Skoll. I can think of a couple. Mando's really cool. Grogu's really cool. I can think of maybe even a couple more. Fennec Shand, she's pretty cool. So I think if we were to go ahead and move forward and move into a different era of Star Wars, then we could potentially get better Star Wars writing in total and just in general. And we won't have any more meddling in what's already been established, and we won't have any more meddling into the Skywalker family. I mean, Rey should not be a Skywalker whatsoever, but we all know that that's what they've pretty much written into lore now, although I completely reject it. I reject it 200%. But that's what we have nowadays. And this is also something that just needs to happen from more of the technical side of Disney and the technical side of Star Wars at this point, honestly, is we need to slow down on how many projects we have currently worked on. What needs to happen is that Disney needs to slow down and focus on 1 to 2 or maybe even 3 projects at a time and get those projects out and make sure they're nice and flushed out and make sure it's a great story and hire the right people in order to get these in hand. I don't care if it takes 5 or 10 years. And I'm sure many Star Wars fans can echo the same sentiment. More Star Wars fans would probably care more for a good project over a bunch of different projects. Another thing that Disney has to stop doing is throwing all this unnecessary money at projects thinking that the more money it has will actually gain its success. I mean, for example, look at the $300 million budget that Acolyte had. That is just absolutely asinine. No movie or TV show should have that big of a budget. And then you consider the writing that went into Acolyte. The writing was absolutely terrible. So it's not like the $300 million budget or part of the $3 million or $300 million went into writing, because it obviously didn't. And here's something I'm going to honestly finally try to address the most part. What's going on with Disney and what needs to change over there and why it needs to go in a different direction is actually the agendas that are being pushed right now. Now, this woke agenda that Disney has been pushing amongst Star Wars has really kind of destroyed everything that's going on in terms of the fans. All fans hate each other, and all the fans are just being divided even further and further apart instead of uniting as one. Fans are sick and tired of hearing about this. Fans are sick and tired of hearing about all these agendas being pushed. They just want a good, cohesive, and deep story, because that's all Star Wars used to really mean, was that George was creating this nice, great lore in this great story. Star Wars and Lucasfilm really used to mean something great to all the fans out there. For me personally, it was an escape, because at the time I was bullied a lot as a kid. I was not seen as a cool kid when I was in school, because obviously I liked anime and Star Wars. I was seen as a nerd and this foolish little boy. But I saw how courageous Luke Skywalker was. I saw how bold Anakin Skywalker was, and I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to be as powerful as Darth Vader and as feared as Darth Vader as well. And something like this with Star Wars really gave me the boldness and confidence to walk in real life and walk in my own flesh and understand who I am. And that's all thanks to George Lucas and what Star Wars has brought to me. And also my religion side of things. I am also religious. I found God, and that would also help me to become who I am today. But a lot of what these characters in Star Wars went through, they were there for me at the times when I was at my complete and total lowest, especially as a kid. And that's something that I can hold dear and true to my heart. And I'm sure and certain a lot of other fans feel the exact same way. And that's what happens when you focus on good characters and you focus on creating a good story, a good, nice, cohesive story that people can follow, and don't push agendas and don't do it for some certain way or try to push some agenda or political statement. I mean, I think a lot of fans are just honestly kind of tired of seeing that, because we get it shoved in our face through every other news outlet and pieces out there on social media that we see every day. A lot of fans get really tired of seeing it. They just want to have an escape and just watch Star Wars, something that they know and love. But anyway, that's all I got for this video. Let me know your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. I kind of went on a rant towards the end. I just kind of was just talking from the heart, honestly, and I think that's honestly pretty good for this video. But as I always say, may the force be with you, and as always, have a great rest of your day.